Welcome to LollieTasking with ADHD. I am your host, Dr. Lollity, a multi-passionate mom of three, a physician, and an ADHD life coach because, like most of you amazing women listening, I have ADHD. Join me as we chat about how ADHD affects our lives and learn strategies to help us all thrive, not just survive, with ADHD so we can live the life we want while accomplishing all our goals. Let's get started. Hello, LollieTaskers. Again, I am Dr. Lollity, a physician and ADHD trained life coach, and I teach easily distracted women, that's mom women with ADHD, easy strategic ways to maximize their time and focus while decreasing overwhelm so they can finally reach their full potential with ease. And I know we all want to get to our full potentials. Okay, so before we get started today, I just want to thank you guys for following me, for everything you've done. It's been so amazing. We are close to 7,000. I think we're even more. I haven't checked lately. But the last time I checked, we are close to 7,000 downloads of Lolly Tasking with ADHD. This is so amazing. I thank you guys. I am seeing all your messages. Some people want to be left anonymous. I'm not going to shout them out, but I still thank you for all the messages that you have sent to me. So the last 2 weeks has been a doozy. Um, I don't know if anybody has been under a rock, but there's been a lot of things going on in our country. And if you're listening from outside the United States, when I say our country, I mean the United States. About almost 20 people. I don't even want to know like how many people now. But some kids were gunned down by a deranged individual with their teachers. And it was such a trigger for me. It was such a trigger for me because the last time this happened, I remember I was home with my daughter. She was close to a year old, maybe 6 months. I don't remember. But she was young. She was young. She wasn't walking yet then. And I remember this happened. I was like, oh my gosh, that was about 10 years ago. That said daughter is almost 10 years old. And I was like, there is no way we're not going to fix the gun issue in this country. Something needs to be done, you know. And I was so sure because there's no way we're going to let this happen again. Unfortunately, since then, there's been hundreds of school shootings. And it breaks my heart that there are some families who are not going to be sleeping at home with their children. So I was in an emotional state, y'all. Like I just have to confess, I was really down. It affected me so very much. Thankfully, it was right before I went on vacation with my kids, so I was able to just ignore the media frenzy and amazing. On the ship, we were on a cruise. We did not have internet access. That was the best thing that could have happened. So I wasn't able to follow it. And it's not necessarily that I did not want to follow it. I know us. I know me. I know who I am, right? I know that if I let myself get consumed by this, I literally will be consumed by this. All right? So, I had to take a break. I really did have to take a break. So, if you guys can imagine, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, I didn't even have any podcast episode out because I just couldn't, right? And that's okay. That is okay. It's okay to take a break. Last week I had a pre-recorded episode out, which was great. Um, but it was a much needed mental rest I needed to take. Because you know something about us, people with ADHD, we tend to be social justice warriors, right? Um, and as you can see by the title, we have such a strong moral compass. And if you have ADHD right now, you have not been okay. As a black woman in America, and I know this is not a political show, but you have to understand, as a black woman in America with black sons and black children and a black husband, we have not been okay for a while. And there was a time I just had to detach myself away from it, right? And as a mother, to a child, no matter what color it is. I'm not okay. Most people with ADHD are not okay. And I thank you for letting me be vulnerable to you guys today. And I want you guys to know that it is okay not to be okay. It is okay not to be okay. However, knowing how our ADHD is, you got to get yourself out of the ADHD rut. Okay? So, because of that, I want to talk about being a social justice warrior with ADHD. Okay? And what that means. What does that even mean? And why do we have such strong moral compass? What is all that about, right? So, as you guys know, among the many characteristics of ADHD, one that stands out the most, at least for me, and the one I'm still working on. I work on all of my ADHD, but I feel like a lot of it I've been able to get on autopilot. But this I still struggle with, and it's a constant struggle to work on this, right? Because people know I'm passionate. I'm very passionate on things I'm passionate about. Among the many sort of characteristics is that we have this idea of having a strong value for the need for fairness, right? I've always said people with ADHD, we were not meant to be born into this century, right? If we're born back then in the days, our skills would have been very valuable. We would have been the shamans and the leaders of our clan, the intuitive ones, right? We would have been the justice, would have been the judges, would have been the kings and the queens and the chiefs because of all of our unique traits. But we're born a few centuries ahead of time. But those same traits are still valuable, okay? I've always been that one that looked out for the underdog. Even as a child, if there was a kid eating by themselves in school, I was the one that went and sat by them. I despise bullies. Oh my gosh. I despise bullies. I do not care who it was against. It may as well be against me. When I see other people being bullied, I almost take it like I'm the one being bullied, right? And that's always been me. As much as I can be loving and caring, and I just want everyone to be at the happy place, I can also be ruthless against injustice. I can be quite intense, yeah. Never underestimate the power of an inattentive ADHDR, especially when they feel like there is injustice happening, you know? And it's so funny. I thought it was just me until I read more about it and until I got more involved in ADHD and started to do more ADHD coaching and learning and just educating myself. And I was like, wait a minute, it's just not me. You know, I had one of my friends, shout out to Toyi, and I'm gonna tag her. She was like, Lola, you're always trying to save the world. And I was like, I am? Yeah, right? It's just not me, guys. It's a lot of us, especially if you have that strong moral compass for people. You feel like there's still something missing. There's more you can do for the world, right? But why is this? I'm sure you're asking, but why are we like this, right? I think it's because we're very sensitive. And when I mean sensitive, I don't mean like mushy sensitive. I mean like we're hypersensitive to everything, right? We're very intuitive. Um, we're less filtered than most people. And we feel the hurt and the pain of the world more often than and not just more often, but more intensely than most people do. It's not that other people don't have this, don't get me wrong, or they don't feel pain or they don't have a moral compass, but we have extremely intense um, cognitive, emotional, and behavioral reaction when we feel that there's some kind of injustice or unfairness being done. And it's like one of our huge fundamental value, right? And most people they see they're like, oh my gosh, like in your Bible, be like, oh my show, right? It's like I can't believe this happened, right? But for us, not only do we feel it, we also have the strong inclination to restore that justice and to undo the injustice, right? It is harder for us to just watch things and let it go. The next question is, what can I do to change this, to right this wrong, right? And the reason why it almost feels like we can't let it go is because we ruminate. We just don't want to keep ruminating without doing something about it. I'm getting emotional. We have to do something about it. Um, and not later. We need to do it now, right? And that's how we are. I was just having a conversation with somebody. Unfortunately, someone I know had just taken their life a couple of days ago. And I was talking to somebody and I was like, but what can we do? We reached out to this person, we did this, we did that, we did like, is there something we can do to prevent this? And she said, sometimes we have to take a step back and realize that there's truly nothing we can do. We have to realize that we've tried what we need to do for ourselves, and it's not necessarily our job to save the world. It is our job to save the next person we know, right? And maybe that next person saves the next person next to them, okay? But let's get it back to ADHD because now I digress, right? But why do we have this? Some people have theorized that we have something called cognitive rigidity. Some people said where we don't have flexible thinking, right? Um, we find it difficult to once, let's say, once we internalize that, okay, this is the social rules, or this is the game, or this is the plan, right? And people change it up, it's hard for us to see the gray area. It's either right or wrong, right? So when we feel wrong, we become extremely sensitive, right? Um, Someone once said that there was a time where I think it was like a research by Bondu Esser. They said they found participants with ADHD had higher justice sensitivity and greater perception of injustice than those without ADHD. They then did a follow up study that confirmed this to kind of like say, okay, if they do it, then why? Right? And it's just that cognitive rigidity is serious, guys. And they find out that hypersensitive is also very serious. You'll notice like kids with ADHD, while they may not have like quote unquote strong sense of justice, like they may not understand the world justice going on, but when it comes to their friends or maybe they're playing a game, they're very sensitive. And when they feel wronged and disempowered and unheard and they can't do anything about it, guess what? They throw a tantrum. They become angry and they don't understand why you don't realize that this thing that you think is not a big deal, while it may not be a big deal, the point is it is wrong and they need to correct it. No matter how trivial you may think it is, if you have a child with ADHD, if they feel unheard, it's really hard for you to kind of break through. So the first step is, even an adult, right? Like we throw tantrums too. The first step is you have to acknowledge whatever fairness or unfairness or injustice is going on. Because if you don't acknowledge it, you can't even move on to the next phase of discussion with them, right? Because the problem a lot of times is not the fact that it's bad that we have the social justice acumen about us. It's a lot of time how we react to it that is the issue, which I will talk about a little bit later, okay? Another reason is, like I said earlier, we're very hypersensitive and we're intuitive, okay? We tend to pick up on pain and suffering easier more than other people do, right? Because it's making decision based on much more than just what we see. A lot of things are very subtle, right? It also means that we tend to see more and can disregard a lot of the subtle sufferings that people have that other people can just see and disregard. Okay, so number one is our cognitive rigidity. Number two is our intuitiveness and hypersensitivity. Number three is we have low tolerance for bullshit. I'm sorry if your kids are listening to this, please close your ears. We have low tolerance for things that do not align with us. Let me say that better. If they do not align with our values, we don't do it. We're all in or all out. So, if we feel things are injustice, is if we feel injustice by people, for example, we hate discrimination, we hate dishonesty, we hate fake people. Oh my gosh, we hate anything that we perceive as unfair. But guess what? We love sincere people. We love authentic people. We love truth tellers, right? We love people who go over equality than anything else. We love fairness. We love Lady Justice, right? We have low tolerance for things that don't serve us. It's kind of part of that cognitive rigidity thing as well, okay? So, if the rule is not appropriate, we also wouldn't follow it for that reason, right? Most people feel like they value those things. However, with someone with ADHD, if we see that there's something going on and we can't tolerate it, we'll fix it. There's no point talking about it. We'll fix it, okay? The fourth thing or reason why this happens is social. We are inclined to use social norms to direct our attitude. We are born leaders or we stay alone, right? We're either in the front doing what we need to do or we're just going to be by ourselves. And a lot of times we're misunderstood. And because we're misunderstood sometimes, we may have some social issues and which we perceive as people not understanding us. So, because we feel that people don't understand us, we go above and beyond to understand people, right? We like to walk in people's shoes and we literally feel the pain physically and mentally. Okay? So, it almost feels like because we've gone through this injustice, we don't want other people to go through it as well. And number five, we don't follow dumb rules. If there's a rule that doesn't have to do with fairness or our values and it's just a rule for rule's sake, we will be the first one to break it because we just don't do things that don't make sense, right? So, just to recap, we have a good intuition, we have inflexible thinking, we have comfort in knowing that, you know, as long as, there's someone who cares, right? As long as we know that there's someone who's doing it or who's not doing it, it's our job to do it. Okay? So, those are the reasons why we feel the severe moral compass. But here's the thing, where we feel helpless and hopeless, we can get discouraged and depressed, right? So, because of climate change, the plight of African Americans in America, the legal system, the shooting in schools, we've been very hopeless and somewhat helpless because we don't know when the school shooting are gonna stop, or God forbid that it happens in a school where our kids are in. Okay? So if you have a friend with ADHD, give them a hug because people with ADHD right now are not okay. Okay? We are not okay. However, There are things we can do to help us be okay. So, besides being discouraged and depressed, we can do something about it. So, the first thing I want you to think about is if you feel overwhelmed by everything that is going on because you're putting everyone before yourself, it's time to start putting yourself first. Okay? Because think about it. A lot of times we're so happy we want to help, but anybody asked us, and we can even get in trouble for trying to help. Okay? So, like, and then also, like, you constantly trying to help people, it drains your energy and it's distracting. And you can't get things done where you need to be doing. Okay? Because you're distracted. When you're distracted, then guess what? You can't get the most important things you need to be doing. Another thing that happens is while it's good to be a social justice warrior, then we can ruminate. When we ruminate on it, we think about it over and over, it actually pulls us into anxiety and depression cycle. And we don't want that, right? We don't want it at all. So what can we do about it? Number one, know your limits. Know your limits. Know that it is not your job to save the world. It doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you understanding that right now, Lola, you cannot pass that bill. All you can do is call your congressperson and vote in the next election. That's it. Obviously, I can do more and start a whole campaign, but guess what? I have other things I'm doing. And it doesn't make me a bad person that I'm not focusing on this right now. Because there are billions of people in this world that can still focus on it, right? So that's like significant boundary. Okay? Set healthy emotional boundaries. What does this mean? If you keep getting called or if you keep getting messages about this, maybe it's time that you like turn off your phone or don't watch television, right? That way you don't get sucked in. Don't feel bad that you want to listen to something happy. It is okay. Instead of worrying that something will happen to your children, maybe take them and go have fun with them and enjoy that time with them, right? Give yourself permission to be happy. Give yourself permission to disconnect like I did for the past 2 weeks. I didn't do reels, which I love doing. I barely recorded anything. I just enjoyed life and enjoyed my kids. That's it. You have to trust that other people can do it better than you. If I need to sign a petition, I will. If I need to donate money, I will. But I just can't keep getting myself in the emotional funk about these children who have passed. Right? May your soul rest in peace. But with ADHD, it could truly, truly get you into a place of hopelessness. And when you get into a place of hopelessness, then you get into depression. And we all know having ADHD and depression is not a good combination at all. Okay? So we don't even want to get there at all. So I think that's one of the most important things you can do. Stay away from negative information. What are negative information? Negative information and information that doesn't uplift your soul, right? And you're distant and you can't really do anything about it. Just let it go. And I think I'm going to stop there before I get emotional again. You know, I pray for the family of these wonderful children and teachers that passed in Texas. I pray for the minds of our leaders to be able to think about the future of our children and make common sense decisions. And I pray the Lord hear us and hear them. Okay? So, just to review, on today's episode, we talked about how we have strong moral compass, but because we have that strong moral compass, we feel like we need to do everything, and if we can't do everything, we could go into depression and anxiety. And I said one of the main ways to get rid of that is to disconnect. It's okay to be happy. It's okay to set emotional boundaries for yourself. Okay? And the quote for today is, I have come to believe that caring for myself is not self indulgence. Caring for myself is an act of survival. So, I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me today, and I hope you have an amazing and intentional week ahead. Don't be a stranger. If you have any questions or want to talk about this more extensively, please join our Facebook group to continue the conversation. It's called Thrive in Spite of ADHD, and the link will be in our show notes. And if you're ready to do something about your ADHD, you can also join our coaching membership called Accomplish with Ease. In our membership, we're able to go in depth and learn about our ADHD, and we learn to live without ADHD so we can truly thrive, or we learn to live with ADHD so we can thrive without it. Okay? Don't forget to also follow us on our Instagram at LollieTasker. And you can always email me at hello@LollieTasking.com. Please, please, please don't forget to leave a review, because the more people who read this review, the more likes we get, the more people watch this, the more we can help more people. And I may just give you a shout out on our next episode. Till next time, remember, you can do it too with some planning, a little bit of balance, and a dash of determination. This is LollieTasking with ADHD. Thanks for hanging out with us on another episode of LollieTasking with ADHD. If you like what you've heard today, I would love for you to click the subscribe button, rate, and leave a great review, in addition to sharing with your friends. Your review allows visibility and also allows other amazing women to find this podcast. Also, if you have any questions or topics you would like for us to discuss, please contact me via direct message on Instagram at LollieTasker or email us at hello@LollieTasking.com. Till next time, this is LollieTasking with ADHD.